At 75 years old, Hank Williams Jr., the son of a country legend and an icon in his own right, has finally spoken out after years of painful silence. For decades, fans saw the outlaw, the rebel, the man who carried the torch of real country music. But what they didn't see was the weight he carried behind those dark sunglasses, the losses, the loneliness, and the battle that nearly broke him. His latest statement shook Nashville to its core. In a trembling voice, Hank admitted that fame had taken everything he once loved, even his peace. "You can sing to millions," he said, "and still feel like nobody's listening." Those words cut deep, not just to his fans, but to anyone who's ever hidden pain behind a smile. Everyone thought Hank had it all: the music, the fame, the legacy. But the truth behind that silence is much darker. Hank Williams Jr. was born into the brightest and darkest spotlight any child could ever imagine. His father, Hank Williams Sr., wasn't just a country singer. He was the voice of America's heartache, a legend whose songs of pain and longing became the soundtrack of a generation. But behind that legacy was chaos, addiction, loneliness, and tragedy. When Hank Jr. was just 3 years old, his father died from alcohol and drug complications. That moment defined everything. He grew up hearing people call his father a legend, while he barely remembered the man's face. Every time someone played "Your Cheatin' Heart" or "I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry," he wasn't listening to music. He was listening to a ghost. By the time he was 8 years old, he was already performing his father's songs on stage, dressed like him, singing like him, a small boy forced to wear a dead man's crown. He once said in an interview, "They didn't want to hear Hank Jr., they wanted to hear Daddy." That truth haunted him. His mother, Audrey Williams, managed his early career, pushing him to keep his father's name alive. She believed the world needed another Hank, but for young Hank Jr., every applause felt like a reminder of what he wasn't. He didn't have a childhood, he had expectations. And in those quiet moments, when the stage lights dimmed, he felt the emptiness of being a shadow of a ghost. He began to find his own sound, louder, grittier, angrier, the sound of rebellion, the sound of a boy trying to scream louder than his father's legend. By the late 1960s, Hank Williams Jr. had grown tired of living in someone else's story. He had spent his teenage years mimicking his father's voice, performing the same songs on the same stages, and wearing the same hat that once defined a legend. But inside, he was suffocating. He wanted to break free, to sing as himself, not as his father's echo. In 1975, he made a choice that changed everything. He left Nashville's polished studios and moved into the rugged mountains of Montana, searching for solitude and identity. There, surrounded by wilderness, he began crafting a new sound, a blend of southern rock, blues, and outlaw country. It was raw, loud, and unapologetic, exactly like the man he was becoming. Then came 1979's album Family Tradition. That record didn't just make him famous, it made him reborn. Songs like Whiskey Bent and Hellbound and Family Tradition turned him into a voice for a new generation of country fans, people who didn't fit the Nashville mold. Hank Jr. wasn't singing about rhinestones or fairy tales. He was singing about pain, rebellion, and survival. But fame came with a cruel price. While the world saw the outlaw, few knew about the demons that followed him. He pushed harder, drank more, and lived every day like it could be his last. He once told a friend, "If I'm gonna go down, I'll go down loud." And then, one fateful day in 1975,
he nearly did. During a hiking trip in Montana, Hank slipped while climbing Ajax Peak and fell over 500 feet down a mountain. His face was shattered. Doctors didn't think he would live, but against all odds, he survived and returned to the stage with a beard, dark glasses, and a new sound that would define him forever. That accident didn't break him, it forged him.
After the mountain fall that nearly took his life, Hank Williams Jr. came back stronger. Or at least, that's what the world believed. Behind the roaring guitars, whiskey-soaked lyrics, and stage lights, there was a man drowning in silence. His new image, the beard, the glasses, the hat, became a shield, a way to hide the scars not only on his face, but in his soul. Fame had given him everything, yet taken something deeper: peace. The industry that once doubted him now demanded more albums, more tours, more controversy. The Outlaw label became both his identity and his prison. And when the crowds cheered, he sometimes wondered if they were applauding his music or the myth. Hank's life spiraled through years of heavy drinking and emotional turbulence. His songs often hinted at that pain. Lines about heartbreak, loss, and betrayal that felt too personal to be fiction. Friends said he would disappear for days, riding alone through back roads, stopping at bars no one had heard of, just to escape being Hank Williams Jr. But the true heartbreak came in 2020, when his wife of over 30 decades, Mary Jane Thomas, passed away suddenly. She had been his anchor, the one person who loved him not for the legend he was, but for the man underneath. Her death shattered him. In an interview months later, Hank said quietly, "When she left, the house stopped feeling like home." That was the beginning of his silence. For years, fans noticed he withdrew. Fewer shows, fewer interviews, almost no appearances. The man who once roared on stage had gone silent, as if the music itself hurt too much to play.
For years, Hank Williams Jr. stayed quiet. He performed only when he had to, smiled only when he couldn't avoid it, and let the world believe that the outlaw still stood unshaken. But silence has a way of growing heavy, and at 75, Hank could no longer carry it alone. In early 2025, during a rare sit-down interview, he finally broke his silence. His voice was calm but trembling, his words careful yet raw. He spoke not as a legend, not as the son of Hank Williams Sr., but as a man who had lost too much and learned too late what truly matters. "I've been singing about pain my whole life," he said, "but I never really faced it. I kept it behind the music, behind the whiskey, behind the show. And when Mary Jane died, I realized I wasn't running from the world, I was running from myself." The room fell silent. Even the interviewer lowered his head. It was the first time in decades that Hank Williams Jr. let the mask slip, revealing the fragile human behind the legend. He admitted he was scared, not of death, but of being forgotten. Not as a star, but as a person. He ended the interview with words that left fans in tears. "I don't know how much time I've got left, but if there's one thing I've learned, it's that the music don't mean a damn thing without love." Those who watched said it didn't feel like an interview. It felt like a goodbye. And for millions of fans, that moment, that confession, broke their hearts wide open.
Today, Hank Williams Jr. stands as one of the last true symbols of authentic country music, a man who refused to let Nashville polish away the rough edges that made him real. He never wanted to be perfect. He wanted to be honest. And that honesty, however painful, became the foundation of his legacy. Generations of artists, from Kid Rock to Eric Church, have cited him as the reason they picked up a guitar. They didn't just admire his sound, they admired his defiance. He proved that you could be broken, scarred, and misunderstood and still stand tall under the spotlight. In a world obsessed with image, Hank chose truth. In an industry that sells smiles, he dared to show his pain. And through that, he became something far greater than a star. He became a mirror for everyone who has ever felt invisible. When fans speak of him now, they don't just talk about his hits or his fame. They talk about his courage to speak, his strength to keep going when silence was easier. At 75, Hank Williams Jr. hasn't just broken his silence, he's broken the illusion that fame means happiness. Maybe that's why decades from now, when his songs still echo across Nashville bars and mountain valleys, people won't just hear a legend. They'll hear a man who turned pain into truth, and truth into timeless music.